Hi, friends. Welcome back to The Whole Picture, where we talk to your favorite entrepreneurs about their deep beliefs, their hobbies, their passion projects, and what keeps them in the long game. Today, we're here with Yael Bendahan, and she is a business strategist for moms, CEO moms, and she has helped them have six-figure launches. She has worked behind the scenes of businesses that are multi-six-figure and seven-figure. She is an all-around rock star, and I'm so excited to have her here. Welcome to The Whole Picture.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this.
I mentioned here in your intro that you are a business mentor for CEO moms. Um, and I know that often, people know, I'm sure that that would mean that you're a mom, but tell us your kiddos, the range and how many you have and all that.
Yeah, so I like this is all very neat and everything. I'm a mom of six and help moms have six-figure businesses. Um, thank God I have six children. I I don't feel done yet. So which people are like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yes." Thank God I have six really amazing children, five boys and one girl. My oldest son is 15. I have four boys, and then I had my first girly 4 years ago, and then now I have a baby who's 8 months old, baby boy. So, yeah, I actually started my business as a mom of four already. So I don't know how to do business not as a mom. Like if I didn't like, I feel like if like someone was like, "Oh, I'll just swoop your kids away for like a month and you could just do whatever," I would literally not even know what to do with myself. I don't even think I could get anything done. I'd be so like I'm like I don't even know what to do with all this time. So yeah, thank God I honestly, like, I started my business because of my children, because my husband was like, we've we can't have one income anymore. We need, you need to figure something out. And I had a baby at the time, and I was like, yes, but I don't want to send my kids out. Like, I don't want to send my kids out to daycare. I want to stay home with them. And that's how I started like researching working from home. And that's how I kind of started on this journey in the first place. And so, that is being a wife and a mom is like my probably is my most important role in my life. Um, it is my biggest priority. It's like everything for me. And so that's what I help other moms build businesses that they can grow alongside their life and fit around their life rather than the other way around. Because what I've seen a lot is there are coaches who are moms as well, but a lot of them, from what I've seen, right, have started businesses before, grew a successful business, multi six figure, seven-figure business, and then started having children, which amazing for them. Congratulations. I mean, I kind of wish I'd done that. That would have been awesome, but I didn't. And there are a lot of mothers who do want to start their own businesses and want to grow their own businesses, but don't already have the network and support system that these already highly successful business owners do have. And so I'm basically helping them grow, from the ground up, so to speak, and then expand once they're done, building their foundation really well, their one-to-one and everything like that, and really just have a business model that works for them. Now then I help them expand beyond that into more leveraged offers, into a more built out offer suite, and I teach them how to market in a way that like works for them. I call it like the mom Bible marketing method, because it has to fit into your life. You can't sit around and journal for an hour in the morning to get inspiration for your post that day. Like, you need to have something that works. So that is it. That's like that's what I stand for. That's like my whole, that's my thing. It's my shtick, so to speak. But thank God it's an adventure. I like kids from like teenagers down to a baby is like I have like all the ages, and it's all the attendant challenges and awesome things, and the juggling act of juggling all the various types of needs at the same time, and it's definitely it's an adventure.
I can only imagine. So when you started, were you like you started your business with four kids and you were starting to do what? Like what was that initial business that you were starting?
So actually, truth is, before I started my online business, I had tried a whole bunch of different stuff. I learned photography. I did that for a while. But I'm a real perfectionist, and so I would get like an ulcer every time someone would hire me, and then it would just stay there like this pit in my stomach until I gave them the photos and they were happy with them. And I was like, you know what, this is just not great for my for my mental health, and so I stopped doing that. I did cake decorating. I did gift basket making, and and I mean, we do a lot of gifts. So teachers and holidays, and there's a lot of stuff. So that went okay. It was great, but like it just wasn't really as profitable as I would have liked, and it was just taking a lot of time. And then I was looking for something I could do from my computer. I'm like, I'm good at computery things. I used to write fan fiction in high school, so like I could probably write stuff. And anyway, I found this freelance writing gig that was like here in I live in Israel, so it was the equivalent of about $10 an hour. And it was about the most boring stuff. Like I actually felt myself like drifting off into like a bored coma like every time I would start writing. And I was like, okay, it's cool that this is something people will pay for, but like maybe I could do something else. And so I actually started off blogging. I'm like, I'll have a blog because that's what moms do. Moms can start blogs. And then I realized like that blogging was a very like sort of long-term income strategy because it would take time to build up traffic and all that kind of stuff. And I saw like how much competition there was in the market. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need money faster. And my friend who was a blogger was like, well, why don't you just become a virtual assistant for bloggers because you have all the skills, you can do all the stuff for them. So I was like, oh, people do that. They need that. And she's like, yeah, of course. I have one. Like, you should do that. And so I started off doing that. And then to shorten the story, like really make it short, but I was like, ooh, I should want, I'd like to get paid more. I mean, my first client was paying me $350 a month for like 5 hours a week, $15 an hour. I felt like a tycoon. I was like, check me out. I am making so much money here. Like, this was my first time I was making like this regular, like, salary, so to speak, out of like my own money. Like that I was just doing it myself. It was very exciting. And I remember telling my mom, like, I bet I can make like $1,000 a month. And she's like, no way. That would be amazing. Like $1,000. I'm like, yes. And so so I mean looking back, I'm like, well, like it's awesome. It's awesome like how far I've come. But um I started doing virtual assisting for other bloggers. Then I realized that actual businesses paid more and started doing social media for like actual like businesses. And then I discovered, Facebook ads like as an accompaniment to social media. So I started doing that. And then I discovered funnels and I started doing that from Julie, from our mutual coach. And so I started doing funnels and launches and things like that. And then in 2020, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I started doing coaching as well because I realized that was what I enjoyed the most about my work with my clients was actually coaching them through their launches, getting through their mindset blocks, like looking over their stuff, doing all their messaging with them. Like it was just that was the part that was like super fun for me. And so I did both for a while. And then when I had her, when she was born, I like closed the door on my services, um, and went all in on coaching. But that year when I was still doing services and I was pregnant and it happened to be 2020 during the pandemic, so my four boys were home with me, during doing Zoom school. I That was like my biggest like almost like transformation year because I was pregnant, I was exhausted first trimester, I was like so tired, I could barely keep my eyes open, and I just really dropped the ball on client prospecting because I just didn't have the energy. I was like, it was all I could do to keep up with my existing clients. And then January 2020, I look at my thing, I'm like, oh my God, I think I made $2,000 this month. Like it was like nothing, like, and I was like, okay, this business is not going to survive this baby. Because the way I'm running this business, I was offering so many different things. I was doing pretty much everything myself. I would like outsource random different pieces, but it wasn't like reliable. And I knew I didn't want to have an agency. And so that was when I discovered how to like productize my services. And I'm going all in on being known for something. And that's the thing I will like, that's the flag I will fly like till today. I like get known for one thing and then you expand out from there. So I went into launch strategy and copy. So like that was my package. It was like launch strategy and then I will write all your sales copy for you, your sales page emails. Want to add on social media, I'll do that too. I did that. That was like my main service, alongside my one group program. I never even did one-to-one coaching. Everyone's like, oh, do one-to-one coaching first. I didn't have time. I don't have time to do like one-to-one calls. I live in Israel, which is like 7 to 10 hours ahead of the United States, give or take. And I was like, I don't have time to do sales calls or discovery calls or client calls, really. So started a group program. And I ran both of those things alongside each other. I went, I think from like, I remember I was like literally 2K in January, and by March 2020, it was 20K because I'd gotten like so narrowed down on like being known for that thing. It was crazy. Um, and that was when I realized like the power of this and the power of being known for something. And that was where I went all in on helping my clients do the same. And that was the beginning of like my like where I am now and like where I'm what I'm doing now, which is being able to stand out in your industry, being known for your thing, creating your signature frameworks, and then using that as the foundation for your business, even as you expand, as you add on other things. That's like my thing that it's funny. I've been talking about it since like 2020, and like now I see people going, "Ooh, you should have a signature offer." I'm like, "Oh, really?"
That's how it
I've
always
been
is.
saying this for ages. So yeah, it's been a real journey, and it's I've done because I've done so many different things in the marketing space. Like I've done pretty much everything except for like I even did a little SEO, but I didn't like it. But like because I was able to do that, I have a really good grasp of like what makes sense for my clients at any given time, and I have a very like kind of broad knowledge of what makes sense for them based on their capacity, their personality, their business model, the income they're going for. And I could be like, oh, I think a podcast would make sense for you, or maybe a private podcast opt-in would make sense for you, or maybe I think you should be doing YouTube. Like, and it helps me really just get that perspective for my clients as well, which is great for them because I've tried literally all of it.
Yes, I think that is so cool because like we have these, I'm seeing this as a like trend for a lot of people I'm chatting with is like we have this thing in our life, whether it's our family or it's kind of a passion project or an interest or something. And like they're running parallel to each other, where it's like we have our life here and we have our business skill set.
Right.
And either people go and they continue on two parallel tracks where this thing exists and the business exists independently. But often I see people do like what you've done, where you use one to fuel the other one. So like you have all of this deep marketing knowledge, like from blogging to all of these things that you've done, creating offers, launching. You have all this deep marketing knowledge. And then when it came time to pick an avatar and apply that knowledge to someone, you picked an avatar that's you because of course you have that deep understanding there. So your roads like cross, your paths cross
Yeah.
and are their own individual thing. So I think that you've done that so beautifully. And I'm curious, was that something that was always in your mind? Like, did you always want a big family? Did you always want a business? Like, what did you picture growing up?
Ooh. I did always want a big family. When my husband and I got married, we're like, we should have 12 kids. And we're like, yes, we should have 12 kids. Now I don't think that we're gonna get there. But I did always want a big family. I actually got married very, very young. My husband and I were 18 and 19 when we got married. I mean, I was 18, he was 19. He is older than me, a little. So, um, I pretty much have lived, I've never really been an adult and not married. And that has obviously its pros and cons. But looking back, I wouldn't change anything. Thank God it's worked out really well. And so the truth is in high, like when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. My dad's a doctor. He's an OBGYN. And so like, that was what I wanted to do. And then my family moved to Israel when I was 12. And I went from being a straight A student because school always came really easily to me to living in a different country with a different language. And that no longer was my thing, right? Like my thing was always like, oh, well, at least I'm a good student. Like I'll do really well in school. And then that was not my thing anymore. Which was now looking back, I'm like, wow, like I lost my entire identity. Like everything that I wrapped my identity up in was like,
At
well, well,
12?
she's yeah, at 12, right? But like that was my whole, I skipped first grade. Like I was very like,
Yeah,
that was the school was my thing.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm probably not gonna go to college the way this looks because I did not do well in school here. Um, scholastically. I did really well in all the subjects that were in English. So chemistry did great, computers did great, English amazing. Everything else was was like no. I did really well here socially actually though because it's funny. I actually decided I now when you look back, you're like, wow, like you see those like trajectory, like you see like those little things that just change. In the States, I was a very much like a very quiet, like on the side, bookworm. Like I had my little group of friends and like I was not like popular in by any stretch of the imagination. I wasn't unpopular, I was just like was not, I was kind of a nerd. In Israel, I was still a nerd and I was still a bookworm. But I made it into like my thing and also like I realized like I started to use humor very much as a coping mechanism. And I became like my family's basic like in-house like, you know, morbid humor like
Comedian.
yeah, basically like the in-house comedian that like would like lighten up the mood whenever things happen. And the same thing happened in school. And I have like so many friends from high school, like so like I have like some of my best friends that we're still like in touch with today. We still have our WhatsApp groups. We're still really close. One of my best friends actually lives in my building, which is really awesome. And so looking back, it was a very, very like shift. Like it was a big shift for me because I went from like, oh, I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna become a doctor. It's gonna be great. And then obviously I still plan to get married and have kids because I'm like, of course, like why should not do everything? Because obviously you can think you could do everything when you're a teenager. But then I realized like that was probably just not going to be my path because like being a doctor is like you choose that in high school. You like have to get like the best grades in high school to get into like, top medical schools. It takes a long time. And my dad was not very enthusiastic about the idea. And like now looking back, I can see why, obviously. But like that was always something that really just like interested me. I loved, him being an OBGYN. But pregnancy and birth and all sort of women related stuff was very much like a very like common topic in my house because like he'd come home and tell like these crazy stories like, oh my gosh, not gonna believe the patient that we had here. And so it's funny because that kind of just like when I got married and I became a mom and got pregnant with my first son, like it just became like this natural kind of extension of like, well, you're always been interested in this, so just do it. So I love everything about pregnancy, birth, babies. I like big hits too, in a different way. But like it's my favorite thing. Like and people are like, again, people think I'm nuts. I love being pregnant. I actually love birth, which is also postpartum, you know, it has its ups and downs, but like overall, like I really I love that so much. Like I feel like when I get older, maybe like when I'm much older and like my kids are like all grown up, like I feel like I don't want to be a doula, like maybe just to go along with other people's births. But like that's just something that really just spoke to me. So it's funny because I went from like be a doctor who delivers babies to, you know what, I'll just have all the babies, you know? Then I can be
Yeah,
there for all of them. And,
it is
and that's
funny how
it is
life
funny,
works that
right?
way.
And I
Yeah.
never imagined having a business, like ever. My dad was always like our family, his dad had a business. It didn't do well. Like he tried all kinds of businesses and didn't do well. So my dad was like, he's like, you want to make money, you just go get a career.
Mm.
That's what you do. And so I was like, well, I guess that's out because I didn't even end up graduating high school. I left high school early and I went to an overseas boarding school in England, which is where I met my sister-in-law, which is how I met my husband.
Okay.
So it all worked out, but business was like never, ever, ever something that occurred to me ever. And although now that I think about it, I used to like run lemonade stands. Then I was like, well, just a lemonade stand is enough. What if people want snacks? And I was like, I'll bake cookies and we'll add this and we'll add that. Like, it's funny that like now I'm looking back, I'm like, you were very entrepreneurial at a very young age, but it didn't occur to me that was like a real thing that I would do growing up. My father-in-law, by contrast, is a businessman. He is like a businessman, like such a businessman. And it's funny how my husband went in the direction of a career. He's actually a paramedic, and I was like, I went in his father's direction, which is more of like the businessy stuff, which is like it's actually really ironic how we each went like the opposite. We each went towards our respective fathers' professions, and it's great. And now I have medical. We have loads of medical people in our family at this point, so I get to just watch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I don't think I would have really enjoyed dealing with all those bodily fluids that did not belong to me. So I'm like, in hindsight, this works. This is a lot cleaner. I deal with enough as a mom that I don't need to go out and find more.
Yeah. You get
You
them
know,
all. Yeah.
you get all of them.
It's so interesting to hear you talk about how you love this aspect of being a mom. You love the pregnancy and the birth and the babies and all the things. And it was so normalized for you. I I come from a very, do you have a lot of siblings? How many siblings do you have?
I'm the oldest of six, so
Okay, yes.
yeah.
So a big family too. And so it's interesting, like, the nature versus nurture like aspect of
Mhm.
things where it's like what's normalized to you becomes your normal. Like, it's normal to have a large family. It's normal to have these things. And I think about like I have one brother, he's 17 years older than me. So I was basically raised as an only child. And I've never had this innate feeling of like, I want to have a baby, I want to be pregnant. Like it's never like clicked for me. And I think it's so cool when people do. Like I'm like fascinated by it because it is so necessary. We need like amazing moms in the world. Like that is like how the world runs is like amazing moms, you know? And that is like it can't, it's like the best job, you know, like you are shaping all of your kids and then they're going to have families and their families are going to have families and like the ripple effect is unbelievable. So I think it's so cool. Have any of your kids shown an interest in like you have a 15-year-old now, have any of them shown interest in your business or in like the entrepreneurial world at all? Are you noticing trends at all?
Um, Gosh, well, my oldest son, he's like he wants to do like he likes he's very very smart. Um his school has a specialty in like electronics and coding and stuff with the goal of going into the intelligence department of the army here. So that's his plan.
Wow.
And generally when you go into that unit that you get trained in really really well, and then you have a lot of job options when you leave the army because you have a lot of skills. So as far as that's concerned, they're like, yeah, they literally said to me like, I'd love to do, I want to do what you do. I just want to like sit on my computer and make money. And I'm like, oh yes, it's just so easy. um but no, they do ask me about it a lot, like, oh, but what are you doing and what are you telling them and how are you telling them this, and so one of my kids, my 9-year-old son was like, I want to be a paramedic like daddy. I'm like, why? I don't know. I just do. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, like maybe be a doctor. They make more money. But like, but again, like it's not like, it's funny because like I really don't have any specific goals in mind for my kids as such. And like you said, I'm the oldest of six. My husband is the second of six. It's funny. Most of us married most of us in my family married spouses who came from families of six. It's weird. I don't know how
Mm,
that happened.
interesting.
So like now we have six. He's like, okay, cool. We have six. We're good. We filled the quota, but I'm like, I don't know. I still feel like I'm not done yet, He's like, you're crazy. Our baby's not even sleeping through the night. But the truth is, I really do think that like whatever your normal is what you're going to see as like average, right? Because to me, six does not feel like a lot of kids. I'm like, that's just the normal amount of kids to have.
Right.
More than six is a lot. Less than six is not a lot. Six is the normal amount, right? Which
Yeah.
is again, what's normal. What's normal is
Right.
what's normal to you, right? So, um, it's just funny how like the kids see what you do and like in hearing their perspective of it is really interesting. But like they'll ask me questions like when they hear me talking or whatever, like, oh, are you doing that? Are you doing that? I was like, is that you talking that podcast? I'm like, yeah. What are you saying there? And they've asked me like stuff like, is it better to sell if a store is selling like candy? Is it better for them to sell like less candy, but it's more expensive, like the better candy, or is it better to sell like a lot of candy where it's like really, really, really cheap? And then we got into like the whole thing of like, low, high ticket, low volume and low ticket,
Yeah.
high volume. And I was like, that's so funny. I just want to talk to my clients about all the time. Right. So it's funny because like they don't I don't really have any specific like I really try not to like impose any dreams of mine on them. Honestly, my goal is my daughter, I don't even know. I didn't even imagine having a daughter, so I've still yet to figure out what my goal is for her. My goal for my boys is to have my daughters-in-law come to me and say thank you so much. They're the best husbands. That's literally, if that happens, like to me, I will have considered myself a success as a mother. I want them to be very, very competent in their home. I want them to have like emotional intelligence. And like that to me would be a success as far as I'm concerned as a mom. So that's what I'm working towards. And they think I'm very mean. They're like, you always make us wash. None of our other friends wash dishes. They don't even know how to wash dishes. I'm like, okay, cool. You know what? You know whose wife's gonna be much happier? Yours. So, you're welcome in advance. So, yeah, that's it sounds very like I don't every one of them is so different that I feel and they change so much as kids. Like as you see, I went from like I want to be a doctor to like I want to have a 7-figure coaching, situation for CEO moms. Right? So I really see like that they've changed even so much and just they can change so much in just a few years. So like the stuff they say they want to do now, I'm like, okay, we'll see how that goes. And I'm leaving room for them to just figure it out. I'm sure that they will because there's, you know, thank God they're pretty smart kids. I feel that they'll find their place at some point.
So it seems like it's very much like you are very much family driven first. So like
Yeah.
your company, your offers, like you mentioned, like you realized your business wasn't going to survive wasn't going to survive your baby. So like the way that
Yeah.
you were running it was not going to be sustainable. And instead of and so you changed your business rather than
Yeah.
like looking at your life and being like, oh, maybe I'll have to, bring in help or send out, like you changed the business, which I love. And I think that that is such an entrepreneurial instinct to like customize your business to your life versus your life to your job or your career or whatever it is. Do you think that that comes from watching your dad in um, like a highly professional career where like he was really, even if that's not an entrepreneur job, it's there's some level of like ultimate responsibility as a doctor where you're like, I am on call, I'm doing the thing. Do you think it comes from that, or is it an innate thing in you that's like, I'm going to make the situation work for me and my family because that is my main focus?
I don't know if it's my dad necessarily. Like, I mean, because the truth is, my mother's actually a lawyer. Technically, she became a lawyer. My parents were in law school, medical school, and they graduated with two kids. So, so
God.
they had me and my sister while they were in law and medical school together. And she like their whole childhood, we heard the story about how she all she wanted was to stop being a lawyer and just be able to be home with us. And so she did when I was like 5. She quit her job and she was a stay-at-home mom my entire childhood. And so that was I knew like that was what I wanted to do. And yeah, you're right. It's true. The truth is, like when I listen to like a lot of these entrepreneurial moms, right, who have like these 7-figure businesses and then they have a baby. And then it's like, so this is what my work schedule looks like. So on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, we have our nanny. So she comes from, 9 till 4. And so those are my like heavy work days. And I'm like, okay, very cool. There are no, I mean, there are nannies here, I'm sure, if you like look really, really, really hard. It is not at all normalized to have a nanny here in Israel. It's just not really a thing people do that much. Um, it's much more normalized to send your baby out. Like a lot, most people, both parents work. Like most families, both parents work. So it's much more normalized to send your babies out pretty young. Like again, between like 3 to 6 months. And Israel has a decent maternity leave policy. You get 15 weeks paid, which can be split between the mother and the father. And then you can get up to I think up to 6 months, 6 or 7 months, like the rest of it like unpaid. But you keep your job. So I still like I was saying to you before, like my baby is 8 months old now. I can get absolutely nothing done when he is awake because he is all over the place. He's scooting around on his belly. He sees things. He has goals. His goal is to like kill himself by choking on every single thing he can find on the floor. The stuff I found in his diaper, like I'm not even gonna get into detail, but I was sure I was watching you all the time, and yet I apparently was not because you still managed to swallow random things. Thank God, like very, very small things. And so I'm just like I was thinking about like maybe I should set him out for like, the morning. And I was like, oh my God, but like that's like his best time of day. Like he is the cutest between like his first nap and his second nap. Like that's like his best mood of the day because like I'm not rushing to get everyone out in the mornings. Like that's like his first wake window. And like between his two naps is like his happiest time ever. Is like when he's the cutest. I don't want someone else to like enjoy that. I'm like, he's my baby. I want that. And so I'm not saying that like my daughter, I sent her out when she was a little bit over 1. I started start sending her out to my neighbor who had a daycare upstairs because she was just bored out of her mind. She just needed company. And so I was like, she needs this as much as I do. Like we both need like a little break. And I started sending her out for like half days. But the truth is, like, we always grew up, like my dad was very much like the breadwinner. My mother was home with us all the time. And so that just became a very, very, very core value of mine was like, I want to be there to raise my kids. And because my husband is a paramedic and his schedule is all over the place, um, I'm the one reliable parent who is home pretty much all the time. So, um, the reason why I had to build my business around my life was because the other option was not having a business. It would be getting a job. And I was not willing to do that because I wanted to be around for my kids. So it was the only option as far as I was concerned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's like, oh, you made that choice. It wasn't like it was a choice, but also it wasn't a choice. Like I had to figure out a way to work it around my life because that was the only option. And that was what pushed me in that direction. And like you're right, that business as it stood did not survive my baby. And I'm so glad it didn't because looking back, I was really, really burning out, you know, and I really had to learn to change things and to maybe get less done and not pull all-nighters all the time. And there was just a lot about like now, right now, I work in the evening a lot more. I work at night a lot more. It's not my ideal work schedule. It's really not. But like it is what it is in this season of my life, and I'm okay with that. Right now, he takes longer naps. So like, you know, before this, he was taking 3 shorter naps. Now he takes 2 longer naps. So now I can actually get work done during the day. It's really nice. But like that's the point is like because as, life as a mother is so um like oh my God, what's the word? It's always changing. Like
Mhm.
it's fluctuating.
Totally.
It fluctuates like this. It's so seasonal as well. Like, and I have teenagers, like a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old who like want to talk to me at night. And I'm like, but I have to work tonight. I really do. Like, I'm sorry. So like I really try to save a couple of nights where like, because they'll just like plop themselves down next to me and start like telling me about all their stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much longer this is gonna last. Like, you know, teenagers don't usually want to even talk to like I should be happy they even want to tell me stuff. So but when I started my business, I was able to do this like pulling all-nighter stuff and all that and run my business mostly in the evening because I had 4 little children who were all in bed by 8. Now like I'm lucky if like 2 of my kids are in bed by 8 and they're my 2 youngest and the rest I'm like go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. And like it's just not our family culture is not like that anymore. Like our day runs later. So my business also has to shift along with the way my family shifts and our schedule shifts and it's just and also even like around like my religion like we have so many freaking holidays, like we have so many holidays like that, like I know every year there's going to be a nice big block during the high holiday season, which is about 3 weeks long in the September October region, that I am not doing anything. Like I cannot do anything business related. It just I can maintain. I cannot do any sort of any move forward in any major capacity because my kids are all off. We have holidays. That's how it goes. And and so again, like that is the only choice. Like it's like not even from a place of like it's like a place of surrender. Like this is the way it has to be because if I want to keep the values like that I hold, strong, right, which is me being there to raise our children,
Yeah.
then I also have to figure how to make money around me being there for my children. But I am more willing. I'm like, listen, I understand like if I have to like throttle back on my business for a little while and make less money, like the other option is what? Sending my kid out full time. I'm not going to do that. So I'm okay with, you know, toning
Mhm.
it down a little bit, maybe getting less done for a few months and then, throttling it back up when I have more time. So that
Yeah.
is, but again, that is what informs my decisions when it comes to my business as well, because it all comes from the place of like this is the thing that's most important to me.
It's interesting because it's making me think of I can't remember exactly what school of work it is or who to credit it to, but there's like a thought that like creativity thrives within constraints, where it's
Mhm.
like if you're just gonna sit down and like if someone said just sit down and write something, it's like there's too many options, there's too much to sort through that you won't do it. But if you're told like sit down and write a 3-minute play, it's no more than 5 pages and is in the sci-fi genre. It's like that parameter allows you to like actually get something into an existence. And it's making me think, like you said earlier, like I wouldn't know what to do, how to run my business without my kids, because you have operated with nap schedule constraints or with holiday constraints or whatever it like you have always operated in that way. And do you feel like it has almost given you like the direction because it was like other options were eliminated and you just were able to go in this one targeted way?
Yeah, essentially. And the truth is, I mean, I do have to like the one thing that I have to like really like make sure that I do, which does not come naturally to me because I'm very much like I'm a type A Enneagram 3, like achiever, like just go, go, go. And so I really have to like take time to sit and think, like to be very, very, very intentional about where I'm going. And sometimes I'll find myself like just like going on doing things, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I've just been doing it this way for a while. Like, is this even still working for me? And then I have to like sit and figure out, okay, like where do I want to go from here? What is my goal here? But that's why I always say like I like to use Sunday as like my day of like planning for the week because even the beginning of the month, I'll be like, okay, what am I focusing on this month? What am I selling? And that's why my entire content strategy that I teach my clients is like it works backwards. It's like, what are you selling? Then how are you going to use your signature framework to inform their content, right? And it all leads back because you don't have the luxury of just creating content like just I'm not saying you shouldn't create content for fun because you can. You totally can. You should if you want to have, you want to like find the fun in content and just do something, fine. Go for it. But like if you're spending time creating content or writing emails or whatever, it has to have a purpose because we don't have like the luxury of just doing it for just for the sake of it, in a way. Um, and you said like, people have outside passions, hobbies, whatever. My business is like kind of like my hobby. Like it's my biggest interest outside of my family,
Yeah.
and my home and and my so it's like um, either way, I'm like I don't feel like a need for like more hobbies necessarily. I don't know if that's healthy or not, right? But I'm like my life is just very, very full. Like, and like my hobby is right currently my hobby is like sitting on the floor and like, you know, doing nose rubs with my baby. Like that is literally like if I could do that all day, I would be so happy. And that's the truth is like it's like I almost like I always hesitate to say it because like I don't want my clients to think I'm not committed to them and there because I am. If someone was like, I will give you whatever, $30,000 a month, but you have to quit your job, just shut your business down. I'd be like, okay, fine. Now, I would like to make more than that. I would like to build, I want to have a legacy. I want to be able to like build long-term wealth 100%, right? But like right now in this season, if you're like, just pay me $30,000 to sit on the floor and play with my baby all day, would do it happily. Like I do not feel like I need to be like, well, I'm more than like just a mother. I'm like, no, I am a really awesome person. I know a lot of stuff. I read a lot of books. I'm pretty funny. I'm really good at business things. And also I'm a mother, and that is like the most important thing for me. And like I don't feel the need to like validate myself outside of being like to be like, oh well, that's not all there is to me. That's like the biggest part of me in a way. It's really shaped who I am as a person as well, because if you think about it, this sounds really like arrogant. It's not arrogant, but like I pretty much have my entire adult life have pretty much lived my life to an extent like in care of others, right? Like I didn't really have a period of time where I just like, well, I'm just gonna focus on myself. I did it. And like again, I'm sure there's gonna be a point in my life where I'll be able to do that more, but like I don't have I just like that's just how my life is built, And so I'm not like sad about that. I'm not like, oh, I missed out or whatever, or like I'm like if I really, really want to do things, I'll do them eventually. Like I have a whole thing, but please God, a whole life ahead of me. But right now, like I can't substitute myself with someone else for my children. I can't give them a
Yeah.
substitute mom. And so like I'm okay with that. Like I'm really like to take a break from my business, just play with my baby is like that's great. Like that's my
Yeah.
hobby right now. That's my
Your
fun thing.
yeah, your business is in service of you.
Yeah,
And that is,
100%.
you know, there are all kinds of reasons I think that people become entrepreneurs or open their own businesses. And sometimes it's, an invention or a thing that they're just so passionate about. And other times it is out of necessity, um, for different reasons. But that is like, I feel those businesses are the ones that stand the test of time often because it is like, as you were saying, there's no choice. So it's like that is the reality for a lot of people. I was just talking to someone earlier where I felt like to me there was no choice in being a 9 to 5 or like, and not because I had kids or wanted kids, but I had just a visceral reaction to like getting 20 hours worth of work and having to be there 40 hours like a week and being like bored and wanting to just like put my head through a desk. And I was like, I cannot do this. It did not feel like an option to start a business. It felt like I have to, or I thought I was going to go crazy or something. Like I was like praying that I would get in like a fender bender so I could like be late because I was so bored and like exhausted and like done. So yeah, we all have our different reasons for starting it, but it is just the reality that we keep it going in that way.
Right.
You've mentioned your faith several times in this, so I'm curious how that has played in for you. Like, you have had this strong desire to be a mom, to be there for your family. Do you think that that has to do with your faith, or is that something that's just inherently in you? Is it both? Like, talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I mean, I think it's very normal for Orthodox Jewish families overall just tend to have more children than the average. Um, I it's definitely like, and again, like the fact that I feel like my purpose, one of my big purposes in life is to be a mother, is also very much like that is we're raised that way. We're like, women, men have a very distinct role and women have a very distinct role, you know, which are neither one is better than the other. It is just your unique role,
Yeah.
right? So like you're like, oh, it's patriarchal society. Blah, blah, blah. No, okay. Men have a lot of things they have to do and a lot of responsibilities that I personally am so happy I do not have.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of responsibilities and stuff that he's very happy he doesn't have. And like that is okay. Right. Which I'm not even getting into that because I do not feel like oppressed or like, restricted in any way, really. I mean, except for maybe like I would love to taste a cheeseburger. Like that's pretty much like like I think like
Yeah.
if I had to, I was like we always do this joke, like if you weren't Jewish for a day, like what we'd do, we'd be like just eat all the food. Just eat all the food
Yeah.
that we can't eat just to see what it tastes like and then I just go back to my regular life. I'm just like that's literally like the only thing. But the truth is, I mean, it's possible this is like that little bit of a holdover from like the Holocaust, right? Where like we lost so many and we still haven't actually we actually have not hit the Jewish population that there was in the world before the Holocaust. So we have, and it's been almost 100 years later, and we still have not reached that point, which is, it's a lot, it's a big deal, and so I think there's a certain like mentality in the Jewish community of like not replacing, but like, we have to have Jewish babies, right?
Yeah.
And even more so, like we had there was this big massacre, on October 7th, 2023. I found out I was pregnant with my son on October 6th, 2023. I hadn't even told my husband yet, although he guessed he can count, right? But I was like still holding it to myself. I wanted to make sure, make sure everything's okay because I'm a doctor's daughter. So I'm like, let me get a blood test. Let me just make sure everything's fine. Um, and it was a very traumatic experience in a way for a while because it was such a huge tragedy that had happened here. And I was like, how can I be so happy about something and have something so good happening while babies were like, you know, unalived, right? And kidnapped and I just felt like it wasn't like almost like wasn't fair. Like, how could I be so like have this gift and like people lost that? But on the other hand, I think it really just pushed people to like be like, no, like that's why we need to just have more, have more children, like just that's our job is to keep on going. And so there's that. I think there's definitely a certain mentality as well of like, we're here to perpetuate our legacy and bring it to the next generation 100%. Like Judaism is a very, very, very family and community oriented religion slash faith slash ethnicity. It's all the things. It's actually a genetic thing. It's actually an ethnicity as well. People think, oh, it's a religion. You could just, but people can also become Jewish and then they're considered as Jewish as any other Jew, even if they're not ethnically Jewish from their, ancestrally. But so it's kind of like all the things at the same time. So because it's a very community and family oriented thing, right? Whatever it is, religion, faith, community, race, ethnicity. A lot of our traditions are very like built around the community, built around the family. We have, our Shabbat, which is, we have 3 meals together at the end of the week. We also don't, we pretty much go completely offline for those 25 hours every week as well. And also on most holidays. So that's another thing that's been like, like I had to be like, yeah, well, Friday around noon US time, or, earlier even, until Saturday evening, like I'm off, like I'm not touching anything because we don't touch electronics on our Sabbath. We don't do it. And like that again, like I don't shake hands with men. I don't touch men that I'm not related to. And if you remember, I mean, when we met up at Funnel Hacking Live, right, back in 2019, it was a talking point. because people are very huggy over there. And
Yeah.
I found myself just ducking. Like you're just like going around or finding like creative ways to like not, and just be like, sorry, I don't shake hands with men, you know. And people were like, okay, that's weird. Or some people were like, oh, tell me why, and it was funny because it was the first experience that I'd had because I kind of grew up in a little bit of a bubble, right? Where like I grew up in a Jewish community. I didn't have to explain to anyone why I'm not shaking their hand because everyone knew. Even like in Israel, even if I went to a secular, like, event, I look religious. Like they would not need me to explain to them why I wouldn't shake their hand. Here it was like people who were like, what and why? And like, what? I don't like, why would you do that? And so that was like one thing that for me was like very much, it was almost like a litmus test, right? It's like, if you have a problem with that, then we're probably not going to work together. It's okay,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that. And the truth is, I've actually heard from people who of other faiths and other religions who've come to me and said, because you're so open about your religion and you talk about it and you incorporate into your thing so much, it's actually given me the courage to speak about my faith more. And I've been attracting so many more ideal clients who are either of that faith or respect that about me or whatever. And this is not limited to Jewish, Christian, Muslim, right? Like who they feel more comfortable just being themselves, holding themselves. And again, this is such a huge part of my life, and it literally informs every single part of my life. We have like little rules and things for everything, pretty much. Which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but it's just how we were raised. It's just how what we're used to. And there is something very, very comforting in just being like, well, this is our like guidebook from God, and we
Yeah.
follow this. And there's something just very comforting about it. And I see the benefit of it in so many ways in my life, right? Like stopping, slowing down, going offline, no devices for 25 hours. Like, who does that nowadays? Very, not a lot of people. It's almost impossible to because people are
Especially as
expected
an
to be,
entrepreneur.
especially as an entrepreneur. Yeah, but even like just the average person is so, like when do they put their phone down?
Never.
Never. And during the week, I barely do either. I fully admit this. I definitely use like I'm on my phone a lot more than I wish I was. But once a week, God said don't, and so we don't. And
Yeah.
it just is a very like that's it. So there's something very comforting about having a higher power like take the reins in a way and be like, well, you can't. So you're like, well, I guess I can't. And it takes it almost takes like your own self. You don't need to like have self-control for that because you're like, if you have enough faith and you're like, this is just how it has to be, then we're
Yeah.
fine. Then, and that's just thank God. Like, I mean, I don't know how people go through life without God, but there's just not never feeling really truly alone, and that like there is a higher purpose to everything. Really, just helps also inform like every my values and everything that I do in my business too. So
Yeah.
thank God it's an amazing thing. And I didn't even realize how unique it was because again, I grew up in just a normal, this is just our normal thing. And I didn't realize how different, how unique it was until I actually went like out into the world, into the online space and was like, oh, this is different. And I do tend to attract women of faith in general. I think because they see that in me. They see that like this is something that's very important to me. And so like I'm not I'm gonna also like work with their values and also that I have a certain standard that I hold myself to, so
Yeah. I think that is something, even if you don't share the same belief system, when someone has a strong belief system and a strong connection to their identity and um, respects their religion and all of the things that come with it, it's like inherently you feel like you'll be accepted. Like that's been my experience is like because at the same like I was just listening to someone who was like, if I voted for this person and this person voted for that person, would we have anything in common? And the whole room was like, no. And he was like, wrong. We both care about politics. Like, and that's the thing, like we would
yes.
both care about living correctly or living in a way that is beneficial to our families or our communities or our whatever it is. Like that is something that I admire so much about you because you are so strong in that and also hold space for like you don't have to be exactly how you are or you don't have to exact like it's like this is the way that I'm choosing to live my life and it's wonderful and admirable and like has done nothing but good things. It looks and like we can see that. And you are so like accepting of like everything else and being like, this is a space to do that. And like your CEO moms are like attracted to that because maybe they have to build it a different way because of this or whatever the case is. Um, so you're
Yeah.
holding space for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because one of my clients just now, in December, launched her first beta course. She is an expert. She's a stylist. She's actually a brand stylist, and she launched a course for photographers to help them learn how to style their photo shoots better, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and like add that skill to their arsenal.
Yeah.
And she was like, I want to do, maybe I'll do a challenge, maybe I'll do this. I'm like, do you really want to do a challenge in December? Like, don't you have something else going on? Like, I don't know, like a big ass holiday, and like a lot of stuff. Long story short, we simplified down her launch plan. We made it like we stripped it down to like a wait list. Um, we had a very, very good launch story that she like threaded throughout the entire thing. She ended up her goal was 10 people in. She got 14 people in. I think seven of them joined before she even opened up the doors to the public.
Yay.
And the cool part about this was, she said, like, the biggest win about this was like, my family has a very, very strong, like, Advent calendar tradition. We have like a very specific, like, it's a very big part of our December. Like, this
Yeah.
is like a huge thing, right? And she goes, I showed up for it like 100%, like I wasn't even launching. And that was the
So
biggest
good.
win for me. And I was like, that is the biggest win. That you can just do your business thing and do amazingly, and also just do the things that are important to you and your family as if it wasn't happening in a way. And like that to me was like that made me that was like one of the happiest wins that my clients had, for 2024. Was like not just the business success, but also that they were able to do their thing and do their faith and do their family traditions the same way without a single like not feeling they let themselves down or let their family down.
Yeah. You mentioned that earlier. I think maybe we were chatting before we hit record, but just that you have seen like people like their businesses improve and then like their marriages improve or like their life improve because it's like a spillover effect into
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I don't know if it's a spillover effect 'cause I think if your business, like some people, like, I mean, we know this, right? Like, you can throw yourself into your business and then your entire like actual personal life goes to heck, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then you just lose all your friends. I mean,
Yeah.
Hormozy says this. It's like, how did I have so much success? I didn't go to a wedding for 10 years, right? I didn't do this. And I'm like, that's very nice for you.
Yeah.
That's not how I want to live my life, right? I'm okay not having a 10 bajillion dollar business if I have to like miss out on like half my life to do it. And the truth is, like, I very much like actually on my CEO mom mastermind, but that's like the highest, like pretty much the highest way to work with me. I don't really have long-term one-to-one clients. I have like one or two spots, like at
Yeah.
most, maybe. So like that is my place where I work with my clients like the deepest. Like I'm in their thing. I go back and forth in their launches. We on their content, on their offers, on client issues. Like that is like my highest like and deepest place to work with me. And on the page itself, it actually says like we are prioritizing all areas of your life, right? It's just you, it's your business, it's your motherhood, it's your marriage. And when we actually were doing like a like kind of like looking back at 2024, like doing kind of like an assessment, so to speak, what I realized was that every single person in my mastermind had grown their business this year, like this past year, but they'd also worked on their marriage and improved their marriage. And like as we know, like that is not a given in the female entrepreneur space.
No.
I have found that there is a trend, and I have my own ideas about it. And I don't think it's like, oh, well, because I'm still married, I must be better than people who are not, right? I do have like some thoughts about it, and I will say that entrepreneurship did have an effect on my marriage and not a good way for a while, until I realized what was going on, and I had to make like very serious steps to fix it and
Yeah.
to go back in the opposite direction. Um, so it is not a given that your marriage is going to improve because your business is doing well. Very often it's the opposite. And
Mhm.
so that was also, it's a huge win for me because if my clients were all like, well, business is doing great, but we're all getting divorced this year. We just realized that, and like that to me would not feel like I
A win.
succeeded with my clients. I'd feel like, oh, great. Like I ruined their lives in a way, like, you know, so I, so that to me, like, was like, wow. So I'm doing something right here because I'm helping them do it in a way that's actually enhancing their life rather than making everything else just fall to the wayside. Um, and that was so
Yeah.
like literally actually like started tearing up like on the call. Like one woman said, I actually brought in a marriage and entrepreneurship expert to come and speak to everyone because I'm like, this is such an important topic. And she was,
Wow.
and one of my clients was like, after that happened and I started putting these things into place and, speaking to my husband in this way instead of in that way and whatever. And he actually started his own little side hustle that he'd been thinking about doing for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But he said he saw me so much, so confident in my business stuff. And he like that kind of spilled over into him. And then he just started his own business. Now he's making all this money and he's just so proud of himself and I've just really seen like this natural like you said the spillover of my mindset work and my confidence and working on myself and the way I relate to him just naturally changing things even though he doesn't know this I this was like over like a couple of weeks. This wasn't even like a long term period, so it was just really amazing to see. And that like that to me is like if I had to put like my wins on my up on my like bulletin board, like that would be one of the big ones.
I love that. And it is like, of course, that is one of your wins because of the way that you live your life and the way that you've integrated your business and your motherhood and your being a wife and being, I mean, all of that you are. Um, I want to be respectful of your time, and this is like the perfect spot to talk about your mastermind and how people can get more information on it. If they're resonating with everything that you're saying, because this is like you're a complete open book about how you view life and business and have integrated the things. So you're the perfect fit for the right person. So tell us like how they can find you for that.
Yeah, so I mean, you can find me on Instagram at the Yael Bendahan. You can see anything I'm selling at that point. I have a lot of different places where you can come in and learn from me at all different levels. So, but like I said, the mastermind is like the my main place where like I work the deepest. It's like basically one to one in like a group format to an extent. And really the goal is like my courses, my signature course, COM Academy is really about booking out your one-to-one with a signature offer, with a signature framework, and a productized service business model, which I think is you should do. Like if you're
Yeah.
starting off in your business, like that's how you should do it because it's the easiest business model to scale as a mom to 5 to 10K a month, like easily. Um, okay, I don't know, honey. Banana. Um, but I, but I, but in my mastermind, it's focused on okay, like you are an expert, you already have your one-to-one, but you really want to like go deeper. Like you want to do the funnels, you want to build out your product suite a little more, you want to really like work on scaling. One person scaling no, two people are scaling a membership. One person is going from is trying to now is now working on booking out her coaching, her one-to-one coaching, and also building a coaching program this year. Another one, right? This one, she also has her one-to-one branding services, but she wanted to create courses that she can make more leveraged income. So that's really the place where like you want to if you're making 5 10K a month already, you're like, I want to go beyond that. I really want to set the stage for like growth to 10K plus, 15K plus, 20K plus months without working a lot more. Like that is the place to go. If you're not there yet, I actually have a smaller mastermind that's a little bit earlier on, people who are really working on solidifying those foundations as well. Quality Momentum Collective. And so you can find like details about all of that on my Instagram and on my, or just send me a message because I'm happy to chat and see like what makes the most sense for you at your stage because it really is very subjective. I'm not going to be like, oh, if you're making X amount of money, then come here. No, because you might be making X amount of money, which would normally put you here, but your goal is Y, so it's going to put you there. And so I think that that's a really like it's really on where the person is mentally as well, and what they're ready to do, more than like just income, because I think it's a
Yeah.
bit of a limiting way to to
Qualify.
sort out your offers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's a really special space. And again, it actually it is limited spots. I have like a mental kind of cap of like how many people I would take into this at a time because I literally think about them like all the time. I'm like, oh, this would be too great for her, and let me just drop this into Slack. So,
Yeah.
I'm very involved, and very hands-on in there. So, that's like my favorite place to hang out is like in my masterminds. And yeah, if it's something that really resonates with you and like these are goals that make sense for you and you want to grow your business in a way that doesn't mean that you're compromising on your family and everything else in your life, then hit me up. and let's chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming and being open and chatting about all the things. It is so cool to see you succeed in not only being a mom and a business owner, but helping other business owners, moms be successful. Like that is so cool because that is a limiting belief I held for so many years that I could not do both. Um, and so I think it's just amazing to watch you do that. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say one last thing because people are going to be like, oh, she talks about her kids all the time. She's not mentioning her husband at all. And I don't like to mention him a ton because I don't feel like it's fair to like talk about him a lot publicly. And I like to, he's like my best kept secret. But he really is my best kept secret. He is the best. You know, the only way I'm able to do all this is because he has been supportive, you know, even in times where like I've been feeling skeptical about my ability to succeed. And, you know, he's maybe even feeling skeptical about my ability to succeed, but he's really, really like just the best husband and the best father. And I think that is also really important as well as like thinking about like having, you know, having a spouse. And I just want to say that again, it was not always the case that we were on the same page the way that we are today, because that took a lot of personal growth on both of our parts. And so I'm not, this is what I'm going to say. People are like, oh, you know, well, if your partner doesn't support your business dreams, then get rid of them because they're not gonna. And I'm like, no, or maybe they aren't traveling, they didn't travel the same road that you did, and they just didn't land the same places you did, and it will take time.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that because if you feel like maybe your partner is not necessarily on the same page as you, it's very possible because they have not gone the same journey as you mentally. You know, people who grow businesses do a lot of personal growth and a lot of mindset work and a
Yes.
lot of stuff, and they don't necessarily take their spouse along with them. And so like you know, there's a place where you're like, well, we can decide to grow together at this point, or we can decide to grow apart. And it's going
Yeah.
to happen if you don't like watch out for it. And so what I just wanted to say is that like I'm the luckiest. He's the best. He's the best, the best, the best. Um, and it did not just like naturally be like, oh, well, I started a business and everything was great and it all worked out because there was always ups and downs. But like realize that like it can get better and it can get better like every year. We've been married 16 years and so far, thank God. And like it's just better than ever. It is the best. And so, um, there's always a place to like where it can grow or where you can connect more. Um, and I felt like it's really important to say that because like people are like, oh well, like well, if you have a husband like that, or if you'll just, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, he's not. You know, a lot of stuff did not come naturally to him, just like a lot of things did not come naturally to me when I dealt with him. And I think that was like that was a really important thing that we made an effort to work on together. Um, and I think that was like a really important thing to say because you know, I realize like you know, like people are like, oh, like is she even married? Because like she talks about like the idea, but she doesn't talk about him. He's a private guy. He's, you know, I don't like to
Yeah.
talk about him too much, but um, I'm very, very, very lucky, and I think that it's that the fact that I'm very consciously prioritizing it as well really does make a difference for us because when it comes down to it, even when things are harder in business or easier or whatever, if you feel like a team, then you can get through it, right? And especially when you're raising children, oh my God, you need to be a team because if you're not a
Yeah.
team, it is not going to work out. So, um, just want to say that if anyone's feeling like their spouse is maybe not as supportive or doesn't really understand, they probably don't, right? And so you can work on that communication and explaining that part and working on getting on the same page, and it really, really can be done. So I just feel like I had to like add that disclaimer
Yeah.
because it's important. It's important for
Yeah.
people to know. So that's it. I was like, I really have to talk about this, and I never got to it at any point in our conversation. So I wanted to put it
Yes.
in here.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad that you added that. Because yes, it takes two, and we're always all in different seasons. So that
100%.
is, we're learning. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I will send everyone we're going to put some links in the description here for you guys to check out if you're at all resonating with all of this. I'm sure you guys are. So I'm going to add some links to the description here and you guys can go check out all the goodies. So thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you for
you.
having me.